The lobby of Grant & Co. was built to impress: glass walls, polished marble floors, the kind of space that whispered power and money. But on this morning, the silence inside was broken by a voice sharp enough to slice through the air. "You brought a child? To an interview?" Brenda's words hit like a slap, echoing off the marble. Her arms folded tight across her chest, heels clicking against the floor as she closed the distance between herself and the nervous young woman standing by the reception desk. Autumn Hayes tightened her hold on the manila folder pressed to her chest. She had practiced her answers, rehearsed her introduction, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She swallowed hard, her voice quiet but steady. "I didn't have a choice. I couldn't leave her alone." Beside her, Ellie, just 3 years old, shifted her little feet on the shiny floor. Blonde curls framed her round cheeks, and her small hand clutched the hem of her mother's jacket. She wore a simple blue dress, one Autumn had washed carefully the night before after pulling it from a donation box. Her curious eyes darted up at the tall ceiling and the massive glass windows, completely unaware of the tension thickening in the room. Brenda scoffed, lips curling in disapproval. She flicked her gaze at the receptionist as if sharing some unspoken judgment. "We screen for professionalism here, not playdates." Autumn's cheeks flushed with heat. She wanted to defend herself, but all she managed was a faint, "I understand. But I am here. I prepared everything you asked for." "You clearly didn't prepare enough," Brenda snapped back. Her voice was cold, clipped, every word meant to sting. "This is a corporate interview, Ms. Hayes, not a daycare." The words landed hard, but Autumn refused to move. Her grip on the folder tightened. Ellie tugged at her fingers, looking up with wide, innocent eyes. Autumn forced a smile for her daughter's sake, even while humiliation burned deep inside her. Brenda sighed, exasperated, and turned to a nearby security guard. "Can we have someone escort?" The sentence was cut short by a small gasp. Ellie had accidentally knocked over a paper cup from the receptionist's desk. Water spilled across the marble, running in uneven streams. Autumn dropped instantly to her knees, pulling tissues from her worn handbag. Her hands trembled as she dabbed at the floor. "I am so sorry," she whispered, panic in her voice. "She didn't mean it. Please, forgive us." No one moved to help. No one said a word. The only sound was the faint tapping of keyboards behind the reception counter. Autumn stayed crouched, scrubbing the cold marble with tissues, while her daughter stood beside her, eyes wide and guilty. The scene was heavy with judgment, like the whole building had turned against her. And then the elevator chimed. Every head turned. From the open doors stepped a man in a charcoal gray suit. Tall, composed, every movement deliberate. He carried himself like someone used to being watched. The receptionist straightened at once. Brenda froze mid-breath. It was Logan Whitmore. The Logan Whitmore, CEO of Grant & Co. His name splashed across business magazines and glowing headlines. At only 35, he had already built an empire. Most employees had never seen him up close. He wasn't supposed to be here. And yet here he was. His sharp eyes swept across the room and landed on the scene in front of him. A young mother kneeling on the floor, wiping water, her daughter at her side, and a manager standing over them with disdain. He stopped. When he spoke, his voice was calm, deep, and carried an authority that silenced the air. "Why don't you tell me why you're here, miss?" Autumn froze, looking up at him, startled. Her throat tightened, but she managed. "Hayes. Autumn Hayes." Logan gave a short nod and gestured toward the seating area. "Then let's sit." Brenda blinked, stepping forward. "Sir, this candidate brought a child." "I can see that," Logan replied smoothly, his tone even. "And I can also see she arrived on time and came with her materials prepared. That's what matters. So, let's hear what she has to say." Autumn blinked in shock, her lips parting but no words coming. Brenda's face twisted like she had bitten into something sour. Logan ignored her completely. He pulled out a chair, set it down, and sat, elbows resting on his knees, eyes steady and level with Autumn's. Ellie, sensing the shift in the room, climbed quietly into her mother's lap. She sat still now, head resting against Autumn's chest. "Take your time," Logan said gently. "Start wherever makes sense." Autumn smoothed Ellie's dress with one hand, the other clutching her folder. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I applied for the admin support position. I saw it posted online. I thought maybe it could be a fresh start." Logan tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "Why now?" Her eyes dropped to Ellie. She answered softly, "Because I can't afford to wait anymore." For the first time that morning, the room wasn't filled with judgment. It was filled with silence, the kind that holds its breath, the kind that waits for something to change. And if you've ever walked into a room and felt invisible, if you've ever needed just one person to look up and truly see you, then stay with this story. Because what Logan Whitmore does next might just remind you that second chances are real. Tap the hype button if you believe everyone deserves to be seen. Brenda hovered at the edge of the scene, arms crossed tight, her disapproval almost vibrating in the air. But Logan didn't so much as glance at her. His focus never left Autumn. "Let's start with your story, Ms. Hayes." She took a deep breath. Ellie shifted on her lap but stayed quiet, fiddling with the corner of her mother's jacket. Autumn's voice wavered, but she forced the words out. "I lost my husband 2 years ago. Car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light." Logan's eyes softened, but he didn't look away. "I'm sorry." Autumn gave a small nod, the kind you give when grief has already taken all the tears you had. "I was 23. I had just started a part-time certificate in office administration. I thought it would help us get ahead. But then, everything fell apart." She looked down for a moment, gathering strength. "My parents passed when I was still a teenager. His family cut off contact after the funeral. Since then, it's just been me and Ellie." At the mention of her name, Ellie peeked up and received a gentle kiss on the forehead. Autumn continued, voice steadier now. "I've worked wherever I could. Cafes, retail, cleaning shifts at night. I applied here because I heard Grant & Co. had training programs. I thought if I could just get my foot in the door." Logan glanced down at the resume in his hand. It was simple, sparse, but neat. Honest. "And you're still studying?" Autumn nodded. "Online courses, at night, after she's asleep." His gaze flicked to Ellie. The little girl was now tapping her shoes softly against the chair leg, humming quietly to herself. Then he looked back at Autumn. "And today? Why bring her with you?" Autumn straightened her shoulders, a flicker of defiance breaking through her exhaustion. "I couldn't afford childcare this week. We lost our apartment last Friday. We're in a weekly motel for now. I didn't want to leave her there, even for an hour." Her jaw set as she added, "I know it looks unprofessional, but this was my chance. So we got dressed, we practiced questions, and we came here." Brenda scoffed. Again. "We can always reschedule without the child." Logan's hand lifted slightly, silencing her in an instant. His eyes stayed on Autumn. "You came prepared. We finish this now." Autumn's breath caught as he leaned forward. "Would you be willing to take a 2-week trial position? Entry-level, office support. You'd report directly to me." She blinked, certain she had misheard. "Yes, absolutely, yes." "Good," he said. "HR will draw up the paperwork by end of day." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Ellie let out a little cheer, clapping her tiny hands together. She didn't fully understand, but she knew her mother was happy. Brenda looked like she might choke on her own pride, but Logan stood calmly, buttoning his jacket. "You can start Monday. We have an on-site daycare. Ellie will be placed there. Welcome to Grant & Co., Ms. Hayes. Autumn rose, balancing Ellie in one arm, folder clutched tight in the other. For a moment she just stood there, stunned by the weight of it all. No pity passed between them, only respect. As she turned to go, Logan looked down at Ellie. His voice softened. "You did great today." Ellie grinned and dug into her pocket, pulling out a wrinkled heart-shaped sticker. She pressed it into his hand. He took it without hesitation. And in that quiet moment, something shifted. This wasn't just an interview anymore. This was a beginning. Logan Whitmore lived by order. His mornings began at 5:30 sharp. Black coffee, a 20-minute workout, emails at dawn, driver waiting before sunrise. By 7:15, he was in his glass-walled office, watching Manhattan pulse beneath him. At 35, he had everything a man was supposed to want: power, wealth, influence. Magazines called him a visionary. Some even whispered his name alongside, giants. But at the end of the day, his penthouse echoed with silence. He ate alone, and on nights when rain streaked the windows, he thought of the fire. The fire that had stolen his little sister, Lily, when he was 12. Bright-eyed Lily, who loved to draw butterflies. The memory haunted him, a wound that never healed. Work had been his shield ever since. Order had been his escape. Until autumn. Hayes walked into his company, sleeves worn thin, child in one hand, dignity in the other. She started Monday, nervous but determined. She asked thoughtful questions, stayed late for training, never once used Ellie as an excuse, even when her daughter caught a cold midweek. Logan watched from a distance, not because he had to, because he wanted to. One afternoon, leaving a meeting, he stopped at the corridor's end. Through the glass of the break room, he saw her. Autumn sat at a small table, her tray untouched. Across from her sat Mr. Ruiz, one of the janitors. Gruff, quiet, avoided by most staff. Autumn was sliding half her sandwich across the table toward him. She had cut it perfectly in half. "I had extra," she said with a warm smile. She hadn't. She looked hungry herself, but she offered it anyway. Logan said nothing, just watched. Something tightened in his chest. The next day brought a different scene. He was leaving his office late when he overheard voices down the hallway, sharp, impatient ones. "You cannot keep leaving early, Autumn. The rest of us are covering your workload," a co-worker snapped. "This is not daycare." "I was 5 minutes late to pick her up," Autumn said quietly but firmly. "I stayed late last night to finish all my reports." "That's not the point." Logan turned the corner and saw her standing by her desk, shoulders drawn, lips pressed together. Her daughter was not there, but her presence, her weight, lingered in the scalding. Autumn caught sight of him. She straightened immediately, not pleading, just preparing to endure. Logan looked at the other employee and said evenly, "You can go." The woman blinked, but I know you can go." When they were alone, Logan stepped closer. "You okay?" he asked. Autumn hesitated. "Yes, sir." He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Take tomorrow off." She blinked. I did not mean to cause." "You didn't. You've earned it." Her lips parted, but no words came. He did not wait for thanks, just nodded and walked away. But as he rode the elevator down to the garage, his thoughts were louder than usual. He remembered the way Autumn's eyes had darkened, not with defeat, but with restraint. He remembered the sticker Ellie had given him last week. He had not taken it off. It was still stuck inside his day planner. And for the first time in years, Logan felt something move inside him. Something warm, unfamiliar, like the first moment of spring pressing against a window still frosted from winter. Ruby said all that good. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of spring day that made New Yorkers believe summer had come early. Central Park buzzed with guitar music, distant laughter, and the quiet rhythm of joggers. Logan Whitmore didn't usually walk through the park. Too public, too unpredictable. But today his driver dropped him off early. He told himself he needed the air. The truth was harder to admit. Near the duck pond, something made him pause. A little girl in a yellow hoodie and sparkly sneakers was crouching beside a bench, trying to reach a plastic bottle tangled in the grass. Next to her was a woman he recognized. Autumn. She knelt down, pulled the bottle free, and handed it to the child. "Okay, Ellie, where does this go?" Ellie scanned the area, spotted a trash can, and trotted over like she'd just been given an official mission. She dropped the bottle in, turned, and beamed. Logan stopped beneath a tree, just out of view. Ellie tugged Autumn's sleeve. "But Mommy, why do we clean when it's not our trash?" Autumn brushed a leaf from her daughter's curls and answered, "Because we don't wait for the world to be kind, baby. We make it kind." Logan's chest tightened. He had built a company, a name, a fortune. But had he ever taught anyone something that honest? He stepped out from the shade. "Looks like I found the city's newest cleanup crew." Autumn turned, surprised. Ellie lit up. "Mr. Logan." He gave a small bow. "Miss Ellie." Autumn smiled. Warm boutonniere. She wore jeans, a weathered jacket, and the breeze had flushed her cheeks. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Me neither," he said. "But I'm glad I did." A beat passed. "Have you two had lunch?" Ellie perked up. "Pizza?" Autumn looked like she might decline. Logan was already pulling out his phone. "There's a place nearby, Woodfile, outdoor seating." She glanced at Ellie, then back at him. His smile wasn't rehearsed or formal, just human. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." They sat beneath a striped umbrella, Ellie coloring on the kids' menu while Autumn picked at her salad. Logan had taken off his blazer, rolled up his sleeves. He looked for once like someone who wasn't performing. So he said, "You teach her ethics now." Autumn laughed softly only when there's trash involved. "That answer you gave her." He shook his head. "That was beautiful." She shrugged. "I just want her to grow up knowing kindness isn't something you wait for or earn." Logan's voice softened. "Is that how you were raised?" "No," she said honestly. "I was raised to hope kindness might show up if you were lucky." She dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "After my husband died, I thought grief would be the worst part, but it wasn't. Surviving was waking up every day pretending I had it together when my whole life was in boxes." Logan didn't interrupt. "I thought, if I worked harder, smiled more, asked for less, I'd be okay. But life doesn't reward effort. It rewards image." He leaned in. "You're wrong." She raised an eyebrow. "The world might not always care, but I do. I care about substance." Their eyes met. Ellie interrupted the moment, holding up a drawing. "I made USA House." Logan grinned. "A masterpiece." Later they walked through the park. Thesky had shifted. A cool breeze rolled in. Ellie sneezed. Autumn reached into her bag, but Logan was already removing his coat. He draped it around Ellie's shoulders before anyone could object. "You don't have to," Autumn said gently. "I do," he replied. "She's okay, really." He shook his head. A good leader notices, "Who's shivering insolence?" Tut stopped. Something in her chest pulled tight, then let go. She looked at him. Not the CEO, not the man in the magazines, but the person who had just made her daughter feel safe. And for the first time she didn't see wealth or power. He saw presence, warmth, someone who noticed the small things, who stayed when it mattered. Maybe, she thought, maybe they weren't so different after all. The elevator ride to human resources felt endless. Autumn clutched a thin envelope, her name scrolled in marker on the front. Brenda had sent the invite that morning. No explanation, just 10 A's IMR, HR Conference Room B. She already knew what it meant. Inside, the blinds were shut. Brenda sat stiffly at the table next to Mr. Gaines from Legal. A manila folder lay open. Autumn didn't need to see the contents. She had already seen them online photos. One of her and Logan walking in Central Park. Ellie on his shoulders. Another Logan draping his coat over her daughter. The caption from the anonymous gossip forum echoed in her head. Single mom scores golden ticket or just knows how to play the game. She had read the comments. CEO's pet. No wonder she got promoted. Now she was here being judged, not for her work, but for something she never asked for. Brenda cleared her throat. Mrs. Hayes, there's been concern about your relationship with Mr. Whitmore. I'm sure there has, Autumn said quietly. Gaines leaned forward. This isn't about gossip. It's about perception, liability, protecting the company. Brenda pushed the envelope forward. This is a voluntary resignation. No fuss, no black marks. Autumn stared at it. 2 months ago, she was jobless, sharing a couch with her daughter. She hadn't flirted, hadn't schemed. She'd just done the work and accepted kindness. Now that kindness was being weaponized. She thought of Ellie. Of all the nights she stayed late to catch up, the mornings she skipped breakfast so her daughter could eat. Her fingers brushed the edge of the paper. May I have a moment? She asked. Brenda nodded. Of course, but the sooner the better for everyone. Just as Autumn reached for the pen, the door opened. The room turned. Logan Whitmore walked in. No tie, sleeves rolled up, expression unreadable. Mr. Whitmore. This is a private HR meeting, Brenda started. Then open it, he said. He moved to Autumn's side, facing Brenda and Gaines. I've seen the posts, he said calmly. The photos, the assumptions. He looked at Autumn. I approved her promotion based on merit, ethics, performance. Gaines cleared his throat. There are still concerns about optics. Then let's be clear, Logan said, voice sharper now. Questioning her integrity means questioning mine. Silence. He turned to Autumn. You don't need to sign that. You've done nothing wrong. Autumn looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't here to fix things. He was here to stand beside her, not to save her. To believe her, she whispered. Why are you doing this? He answered without hesitation. Because you matter. Because the people who work the hardest shouldn't be the ones left most vulnerable. Brenda exhaled. Logan, the optics. Then change the lens, he said. He picked up the envelope, tore it in two, and dropped it into the trash. Then gently, You're dismissed, Miss Hayes. From this meeting, not this company. Autumn blinked, overwhelmed. Thank you. You've earned it, Logan said. As they walked out together, murmurs rippled behind them. But Autumn walked taller. Not because Logan defended her, but because someone finally believed in who she really was. They reached the elevator. She turned to him. You know they'll talk more now. Logan smiled. Let them. I'm not afraid of noise. She held his gaze. Neither am I. The elevator doors opened. They stepped in side by side, and something quietly began to shift. Autumn avoided the executive floor for 3 days. She took early lunches, left late, steered clear of the glass elevators in the west hallway near Logan's office. It wasn't just about the gossip. It was the feeling of being exposed. The feeling of being defended in front of a room full of people who had written her off. It wasn't pity that was the hardest part. It was belief. And belief, real unflinching belief, felt like a weight she wasn't sure she deserved. Late one night, as she sat on the worn couch of her rented studio, Ellie asleep in her arms, her phone lit up with a new email. You are more than what they say. You are exactly what this company needs. Don't disappear on me, Logan. She read it 3 times. Then, without replying, she stared out the window at the city skyline and whispered, Why does that make it harder? 2 days later, she got a calendar invite from his assistant. No title, just rooftop. 6:15 p.m. Autumnal Most declined it. But at 6:12, She found herself standing at the stairwell door, heart thutooing, hand on the handle. The rooftop was quiet, the wind soft but persistent. Manhattan stretched out before her, indifferent and golden under the setting sun. Logan stood near the edge, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled to his forearms, his silhouette outlined by the sky. He didn't turn when she stepped out. "Thank you for coming," he said. Autumn approached slowly, folding her arms across her chest. "You did not have to stand up for me like that." Logan glanced at her. "Actually, I did." A silence settled between them. Not awkward, just full. He finally spoke again. "When I was 12, my little sister died in a fire." Autumn's breath caught. He was 7. "I was supposed to watch her that night. I was angry at my parents. Snuck out to meet a friend. 15 minutes. That's all I was gone." He swallowed. 15 minutes. Autumn didn't speak. She'd made a pillow for it in the living room. Knocked, over a lamp. The fire spread faster than anyone expected. "They told me she probably never woke up." He looked at her now, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "I've built 100 things since then, but I never stopped trying to build something that would make me feel worthy of still being here." Autumn stepped closer. "You don't owe anyone redemption, Logan." He looked away. "I know that, but it doesn't stop the needing." Then his voice dropped lower. "When I saw you holding your daughter, standing there while everyone judged you, and still showing up with your head high, I remembered what this was all supposed to be about." He turned to face her fully now. "You saved someone, not just your daughter, not just yourself." He stepped forward. "You reminded me why I started this company. Why it has to matter." Autumn's eyes filled, but she didn't let them fall. She stepped forward too slowly, carefully, and then, without needing a single more word, she reached out and took his hand. Warm, solid, steady. Neither of them said anything. They didn't have to. For the first time, both of them felt the quiet hum of something neither had known how to name. Not being alone anymore. The city roared below them, but it felt far away. Up here, there were no job titles, no rumors, no mistakes too big to heal. Just 2 people, both broken, both brave enough to stay. The rain fell in sheets, soft but relentless, as Autumn stared out the window of their tiny one-bedroom apartment. A bucket sat in the corner of the room, collecting steady drops from the leaking roof. The lights had gone out over an hour ago. The air was damp. Ellie was curled beside her on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, whispering, "Mommy, I'm cold." Autumn pulled her daughter close and kissed her forehead. She reached for her phone, her thumb hovering over one name, Logan. For a moment she hesitated. Then she typed, "Power's out. Roof's leaking." Ellie shivering. "I'm sorry, I just didn't know who else to call." Their reply came less than a minute later. "I'm on my way. 15 minutes." Logan's SUV pulled up in front of the building just as Autumn stepped outside, holding Ellie under an umbrella. Rain plastered her hair to her forehead. Ellie was wrapped in Autumn's jacket, both arms around her mother's neck. Logan jumped out, opened the door, and took the umbrella without a word. He shielded them as he reached for Ellie, gently lifting her into his arms. "You're soaked," he said quietly. "I'm fine," Autumn replied, her voice trembling not from the cold. He didn't argue. His penthouse was warm and softly lit. Marble countertops, art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the storm. Autumn stood awkwardly near the entrance, dripping and unsure. "I'll get towels," Logan said, already moving. Ellie giggled when he handed her a fluffy robe that reached past her knees. 10 minutes later, Autumn stood barefoot in his kitchen wearing one of Logan's oversized button-up shirts and a pair of dry leggings he had in a donation box. She stirred pasta on the stove while Ellie played quietly on the plush rug nearby. "You didn't have to cook," Logan said. Ash walked in, now changed into a soft gray hoodie and joggers. "You drove through a storm for us," she replied. "Dinner is the least I can do." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her move like she belonged there. "Smells better than anything my chef ever made." Autumn laughed softly. "That's because it's real food." Later, after dinner, the three of them sat on the couch watching an old animated movie Ellie picked. The little girl leaned against Logan's chest, her hand curled around his sleeve. Halfway through the film, her breathing evened out. She was asleep. Logan looked down at her, then at Autumn, who sat beside him, knees tucked up under her. "He's out," he whispered. Autumn smiled. She always picks the movie, then never finishes it. There was a long pause. The room filled only, with the soft hum of credits rolling on screen and the storm outside easing into mist. Then Autumn spoke. "I'm scared," she said almost too quietly, "of hoping too much." Logan didn't move, didn't speak right away. "I've learned to live without a lot of things," she continued, her voice shaking. "But the hardest part is letting myself imagine more. A home, a real one. A future where Ellie doesn't grow up watching me struggle. A life where someone stays." He turned to her. Her eyes glistened in the soft light, and she quickly looked away. "I shouldn't say any of that." Autumn," he interrupted gently. She looked up. "Then let me carry that hope for you," Logan said. "For both of you until you're ready to hold it on your own." Silence. Then a breath. A heartbeat. Autumn leaned in, not closer physically, but emotionally. Her shoulders softened. The wall around her cracked just enough. Ellie shifted in her sleep, still holding on to Logan's arm. He smiled down at her, then met Autumn's gaze again. No declarations, no grand gestures, just truth and something real. 1 year later, Autumn Hayes stood just off stage, at the front of a packed auditorium, wearing a simple blazer and a name badge. Director of Training and Development, Grant and Co. Not long ago, she was counting quarters for diapers. Now she was leading an initiative for single mothers, just like she used to be. Out front, Ellie, now 4, sat in the front row, curls tied into 2 bouncy ponytails, waving proudly at her mom. Beside her sat Logan Whitmore, still polished in a navy suit, but somehow warmer, more at ease. His attention was locked on the two girls who had changed everything. The press conference began. Logan stepped to the podium. "Today we're launching more than a policy," he said. "This is personal. It's called New Roots. For parents who kept going even when life told them to stop. For the ones who were invisible but never gave up." Applause filled the room, but Logan's eyes stayed on Autumn and Ellie. His reasons. Later that afternoon, the three of them walked hand in hand through the park behind the building. Ellie in the middle, Autumn on one side, Logan on the other. They did not speak of love. They did not have to. Ellie's tiny fingers swinging between them said it all. A Saturday in the park. Sunlight spilled through tall trees as dozens of kids gathered for a free dance class. Ellie in a yellow tutu and sparkly sneakers twirled dramatically while Logan knelt to retie her shoes. "Coach Ellie's ready for her big debut," he teased. Autumn walked over laughing, a tote of homemade cookies on her arm. "As long as she doesn't try to choreograph the whole thing again." Ellie twirled toward them. "Mommy, Daddy, watch me." Autumn. "Froze. Daddy." It slipped out so naturally. Logan didn't flinch. He just looked at Autumn and gently reached for her hand. She let him. That night, Logan's penthouse kitchen was filled with quiet music and the clink of dishes. Autumn stood at the sink, rinsing plates. On the couch, Ellie was fast asleep, curled up in a blanket, holding the same stuffed giraffe she'd carried into that job interview a year ago. Logan stepped in and handed Autumn a folded paper. She dried her hands, opened it, and froze. Transfer of equity, Grant & Co. It wasn't flashy, but it meant real security, real trust. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered. "I did," Logan said. "It's not a gift, it's recognition. You didn't just change this company, you changed me." He stepped closer, took her hand. "I used to think I had everything, but I didn't have home. Not until you two walked in." Autumn reached up, touched his cheek. "Home isn't a place, it's people who stay." And then they kissed. No rush, no fireworks, just warmth and the feeling of finally being where they belonged. The wedding, it was small, simple. A beach, close friends, bare feet, and warm sand. Autumn walked down a flowered-in path, Ellie skipping ahead, tossing petals in every direction. Logan waited at the end, barefoot in linen, heart in his eyes. The officiant smiled. "Do you, Logan Whitmore, take this woman and her daughter into your heart? Your life, your forever?" Logan looked at them both. "I already have. And do you, Autumn Hayes, take this man not just for yourself, but as a father to your child and a partner in every storm to come?" Autumn's voice cracked with joy. "With all my heart." Ellie stood between them, holding both their hands. Together, back at Grant & Co., a new banner hung above the doors of the new Roots Training Center. Every parent deserves a second chance. Every child deserves a future. And down a quiet hallway, the three of them walked hand in hand, sunlight pouring through tall windows. No longer CEO and job applicant. No longer strangers from two different worlds. Just a family built on grace and a love that asked for nothing but honesty. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was better because they didn't give up. They found something greater than success. They found home. Sometimes what feels like the end of the road is really just the beginning of something beautiful. Autumn didn't walk into that interview looking for a miracle. She showed up with courage, with dignity, and walked out with a second chance, a new future, and a family she never saw coming. Because kindness isn't weakness, and love doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It simply shows up and stays. If this story touched you, tap the hype button and subscribe. Thank you for watching.